landscape, other than being part of Seedcamp, which for all three of these guys were instrumental in the beginning of Seedcamp. So Greg, Avid, and Max were all over the last 3-4 years in various capacities very involved in Seedcamp. So we've benefited a lot from their expertise. But what would you say to these guys about how you navigate this landscape? Because if you haven't been on the other side of the table, it is really confusing. So, Avi, do you want to start?
I think there's two factors that will affect this, two obvious factors that affect this answer. One is how much you actually need, how much money do you need? So you can start a business with very little money, or you may need a lot of capital depending on how capital intensive the business is. And that defines the type of investor
Speak up a bit.
Sorry.
Back of the room.
So it will, depending on how much money you need to grow your business, will define the type of investor that you can or cannot approach, or should not approach. So for a very capital-intensive business, then VC would probably be an obvious choice because they have the money, or a super angel, somebody with some institutional backing that can pour in cash now and later. So you need to have a good sense of how much cash you need today, how much you will need tomorrow, and in a year, 2 years, 3 years, laid out that way. And then depending on, I think, what kind of resources you have other than money around you in terms of expertise. So you know what you're good at, you know what your partner is good at if you have a partner, or your teammates are good at. And then there's a bunch of things that you're not good at that you don't have resources for. And that's what you want to look in an investor for. So that's where, again, depending on, once you've decided how much cash you need, then you look into what type of investor do you want. If you have all the expertise you need for now, and you just need the money, well then you could potentially have a pretty easy task at hand, and going there's a bunch of grants you can get, there's a bunch of different devices that you can go to, different people that would invest blindly actually into anything.
She'll be giving a list.
But you probably don't want to do that because it's a waste of your time, and you don't know what terms that would come with. So you want to look for somebody or a group of people with a certain expertise in a certain industry. And the way to do that, if you don't have Seedcamp, the purpose of Seedcamp is to bring a lot of people from different industries around tech together, experts, talk to them and figure out maybe they're investing or they know somebody who can invest. So it's all about networks and building those networks. What you need to do is simply leverage your own network to go towards that. So how do I get, if I'm building a consumer internet company and I have no idea where to go, I don't need that much cash. I know maybe I'll need 2 million, 3 million to go and get break even. But right now to start, I need maybe 200, 300K. How can I find 200, 300K? Well, I'm sure if you look around, you can find somebody who may know someone at Google, or somebody who may know someone at Index, or somebody who may know somebody else at some other internet company, who you then try to get an introduction to that person. That person may not be the person with the cash, but they'll be able to guide you with who to go to and maybe even input some ideas in how you change your business model. So it's all about being scrappy and resourceful and being able to ask, simply asking. Don't ask, don't get. And trust me, when you start asking, people are very willing to help because they just want to help entrepreneurs. So that's what I would say is figure out how much money you need and then figure out who actually has access to that capital, what kind of investor, and then open up your network and start even mapping it and figure out how do I get to that person. And you will find links to do that.
Max?
So, can I contradict you? Yeah.
Of course you do.
Well, the problem is we're all friends. Like usually, like when you're on a panel, you get to rip on each other, so it's kind of tough. So I think here's my optimal funding history. Right, you're a lone developer working on a kick-ass thing at night. You know, you still have your full-time job. You know, you're still getting paid. you're doing this at night, it explodes in traction. You know, you add 1 or 2 developers. You know, you give them 5% max, right? Thing keeps exploding, keeps growing like no tomorrow, right? Maybe one of them or one of your friends has a bit of money, you put in 50, 100K, you know, you're able to pay the service. You still don't pay yourself any salary. You move out to Silicon Valley, right?
Is this the chat roulette story?
No, the chat
You didn't hire the developers at the beginning.
This is almost Facebook.
Right.
Forget the Silicon Valley bit because that doesn't go down well here. So you never get into a position where you need money. You never ever do that. You don't hire someone that you know you can't pay in 3 months. It doesn't work that way. Like, always, you keep at least 6 months runway, paying your servers. Never pay for anything that you can't afford. And then if you have, if you have the customer traction or if you have the, the lead interest, VCs will come, and they will talk to other people about your business and hint at how well it's doing, and then always say, even if you're like desperately willing to scale this business and want millions in your bank account, always say, and we're not currently raising money. Everyone kind of goes, really? Why? And you kind of, well, we're doing so well, we don't need. So there's, this there's kind of a cat and mouse thing here, and it's very much like dating, and you don't really want to seem available. I have seen amazing companies, Bebo, Playfish, do rounds that they raised 15, 20 million dollars, not because they needed it, but because they could. And the VCs wanted a certain amount of certain share in their company. So that's kind of where it came out. We want to invest 15, 20 million. There are 2 participating partners. We both need to own like 12.5%, 15% in your business. Oh, you have a $45 million valuation. That's so planning backwards. Like, well, I think to scale this business, I need $3 million. It's so rare that it is that is the way it works. I mean, really kind of follow your passion, try and build something that people want, and at that point, add a bit of money from someone you trust, and then go out and the VCs will cut it.
So, hang on.
No, do.
Greg, being the ultimate diplomat, can take the third way.
Well, I was just say, so in Metropolis, between the head and the hand must be the heart. And I'm going to empathise because actually we've been agonising about this question internally within the organisation. Should we raise money? How much? Who from? And I thought, well, actually, I kind of know this industry a little bit. I've been in it for a few years. How hard can it be? It's really hard. And it's really hard even if you should know your way around it and you basically know who to ask and what questions to ask and how to ask them. So I have a lot of empathy and probably much more. I've been at startups before and I guess I've sort of rolled with it a little bit, but I just think, I sort of should probably just apologise to everybody who ever pitched to me for being a bit of a jerk. Reality is that it's really easy to fall into that pattern, and when you're on the other side of the table, it's really freaking hard. When you haven't slept much for a couple of weeks, and you've been working like crazy, and something's gone wrong, and you're fighting a fire, and then on top of all this, you've really got to raise cash. It's really hard, and it's a very, very impenetrable and opaque world. And I think what Max said is very smart and true, and what Avid said is very smart and true. But navigating your way through the strategy and the tactics is really difficult. Practical advice: get a really good lawyer. I'll give a free plug. There's a couple in this room, and latch onto them. And they'll help. That's one, and there's the other. So, and I tell you what, there's not many other people in London you should be talking to if you're looking for a good venture lawyer. So it's an honest compliment as well as a free one. Find a good lawyer. Ask people who've been there before. Pin down entrepreneurs. They'll usually make time for you. Just buy them a coffee or Pro Vigil or whatever it is it takes.
Or some jewellery from their website.
Or some jewellery from their website or their home while they're out of town. That's one final stay in case you're taking notes. And scrabble through as best you can. It's not the most important thing you need to do. You need cash. It's not the most important decision. The most important decision you make by far is who you go into business with. That's by far the most important decision you make. And for that, I just, touch wood, I've just been really lucky. But it is an important decision. And I know it certainly keeps me awake at night. But try to keep the main thing, as someone that Saul and I know very well, never tired of saying.
On that note, okay, so